Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. George Morgan here at your service. It's PSGL, it's Wednesday night, it's Spain tonight as well. Lots on the table, lots of battling. The title contest is still alive and kicking. And Jack, it's only taken us 10 rounds. We're on the 11th. It's all to play for.
Boromant goes on the inside and takes the lead on the final lap of the race. Now it's side by side between Boromant and Warner, but Boromant's got the inside.
A guest star here in this phenomenal race. Cameron Dowd looking to take P2 in his very first PSGL F1 PC race. Incredible.
After an extraordinary season of PSGL, today is the last chapter, not only of the season, but also of the game cycle here for PC F4. It has been an amazing season though for us this season in Season 36, and last race was absolutely extraordinary. The best race of the season, here's the best bits from it. 5 red lights! And we go racing in Sao Paulo with a good reaction time from Felipe Sousa. But the home hero is going to have to try and defend from Emil Lundell. But Felipe Sousa has got the lead. Emil Lundell trying to dive to the inside. That could leave him vulnerable to Luke Wallstow. Are they all going to be able to make their way through the center S? Boris getting ahead of Tyus Korsman. Keanu Littard making up a few places as well. Boris has moved up. There is still Felipe Sousa, the leader, as we go down to turn number 4. That's very close in the background. That's Tyus Korsman, Tristan Debecourt and Zach Miles getting very close together. But it's exactly the start that Felipe Sousa wanted at the front of the field. He's got the lead. Can Jane Tripkov make the move for second place? He's using ERS. He wants second. And he's gone sideline. Can pick his breaking point? He can. And Jane Tripkov moves up to second place as Emil Lundell gets demoted to third. And Sasha Neeb on the soft tyres fights her way through to P12. Could do indeed. We'll cut on to the man second, gaining with every meter that we make our way towards turn 4. And Jane Tripkov, with the soft tyres attached to the car, has taken the lead. Felipe Sousa trying to come back, but he knows that he doesn't need to fight it so much at this stage. Jane Tripkov hits the front here in Brazil. And Felipe Sousa, in his home Grand Prix, pulls alongside and retakes the lead of the race onto lap number 5. Felipe Sousa back to the front. Now, Emil Lundell knows that he's got to try and get past Jane Tripkov, who will go to the inside. Can Emil Lundell go around the outside into turn 1? You can see that the Alpine driver has emerged in front out of turn. Emil Lundell moves up to second place, and these guys have lost a 1 second gap ahead to Felipe Sousa. Let's see if Emil Lundell can try and change that and get them back inside the 1 second.
As Linus Donovan and Daniel Gottschalk are having quite a tussle there. Look at that side-by-side going through the Senna S's, leaving each other not a lot of space, but just enough so that Linus Donovan can stay ahead and Daniel Gottschalk doesn't go off the track. But Daniel is now going to dive down to the inside. That is a risky move. We've seen this go wrong before. This time it's 2 Ferrari engines. They do keep each other both on track. And look at that. Down the inside comes Kryzix. He's going to stay around the outside here. This is a very daring move. There's not going to be enough space.
Here we go. Battle on the brakes for the race lead. Emil Lundell to the inside. He gets ahead of Felipe Sousa. So the mediums will be starting to fade for Felipe Sousa. And Emil Lundell takes the lead. Can he hold it though? Because Felipe Sousa is coming back. And with DRS, Felipe Sousa retakes the lead of the race into turn number 4. Felipe Sousa back to the lead. Emil Lundell in second. And we're still maintaining the same order.
We have yellow in sector 1. That is a Ferrari that's car. So we have a safety car.
Safety car is out. Carlos Torres has had issues. He's gone off the road. He's lost his front wing. And Carlos Torres finds the barrier.
Should start any moment now. He's really waiting a very long time. And there he goes. There goes Felipe Sousa. And it looks like he's caught Emil Lundell a little bit napping, because Emil Lundell immediately under pressure by the drivers behind. Luke Wallstow, Tristan Debecourt, Boris Zakusek gets past the Korsman.
Korsman looking for the move into turn number 1. So a late restart meant that we had a lot of side-by-side. And that's Kuba trying to get past it. Jane Tripkov picks up a 5-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. And that is going to be Kuba getting past Keanu Littard. And Kuba is also going to try and get past Korsman. Is he going to go all the way around the outside? He's going to be shown the curb, but he's going to keep his foot in. And now we're going to be side-by-side up towards Ferradura. Amazing action on this restart. Kuba with the inside line. Does Kuba have the position? Korsman's going to keep his foot in, but he'll now be out wide. And that will open the door for Keanu Littard. The two drivers who battled it out a lot in F5 last season. close to battling it out here in Brazil now in season 36 in F4. Nadi Perez defending. Jane Tripkov nearly going on the grass to try and get through. Late on the brakes, and Jane Tripkov powers away by to P10. That was great driving by Jane Tripkov. Found a gap on the inside, was late on the brakes, and moves up to P10.
And it looks like Emil Lundell has succeeded to stay within, but that's a mistake for Kubitrasiak as he loses a few positions.
Whoa.
And they're 3 wide. They're 3 wide into turn 12.
Oh, can you believe what we're seeing? Korsman getting them all. They were all battling, making their way through. And now that's Kuba who has been passed. And here comes Daniel Gottschalk. Daniel Gottschalk has got past Kuba. He's gaining on Boris. Can he get past Keanu Leetard as well? As we see Boris trying to squeeze there. Daniel Gottschalk who is going to get the inside. And he is going to get past. Boris though keeps his foot in, and that's going to be so close on the exit. And Daniel Gottschalk has got through. Kuba's going to have a chance to now fight back against the Sauber driver. And Kuba trying to get past Boris. He's going to try dive to the inside. They know that the rain's coming, and they're all trying to make as much as overtakes as they can right now. And Boris gets pushed wide as Kuba moves up to P8.
Because we know that the rain is going to come out, these drivers are giving it absolutely everything. Jane Tripkov has gone past Boris Zakos.
Korsman moves up to P4. It'll be Tristan Debecourt in 5th, but he'll now have Leetard on the back. Can Debecourt try fight back against Korsman? What about Leetard now? Can he try attack? Boris has been given a penalty, and Debecourt trying to defend. Leetard trying to go all the way around the outside while these two battle. They're getting closer to Tyus Korsman, and that's going to be an opportunity for Debecourt to go to the inside of Korsman. That's compromised his line, and here comes now Keanu Leetard trying to get through. That is so close to contact between the two of them. Is Keanu Leetard going to put the car on the outside of Ferradura? This would be absolutely brilliant from Keanu Leetard, who is still in there. He's still keeping his foot in, and Tristan Debecourt squeezing him all the way through, and Keanu Leetard has got the inside line. He's got 5th place.
Flanus Donovan has gone past, and Philippe Sauce has been overtaken by Emil Lundell. We have a new race leader, and it's Zach Miles is out. Boris Zakosek is out.
Safety car.
Safety car.
Safety car's out. Boris Zakazak out of the race. So is Zach Miles. So it seems like those two have had it coming together exactly at the moment that Emil Lundell takes the lead of the race. Okay, so they're battling up ahead. That's Linus Donovan and Boris. Boris with a bit of contact with Linus Donovan, and then straight into the path of Zach Miles. Rain could come any second, and you're going to have everyone but 2 drivers on the soft compound of tyres, and it's Kuba and Jane Tripkov leaving this restart very, very late indeed, as they will come over the line, and Kuba has gone. So Kuba takes us to green flag racing conditions, and Emil Lundell already trying to go on the attack, trying to go round the outside of the center S. Can he move up to 2nd position? He's got the inside, and Emil Lundell moves up to 2nd position, and Kuba surely won't put up too much of a fight. He's got his teammate right ahead, and Kuba is going to be allowed. He's going to let Emil Lundell through there as we see more battling. Felipe Salza dives to the inside, and James Tripkov has been passed as well, and it seems like we've had a few battles gone off, and Kreisix has had issues, and Felipe Salza being squeezed, and Jane Tripkov and Luke Warstow making a bit of contact, but continuing on is Jane Tripkov, and Korsman now dives to the inside as well. Okay, so we're on board with the French driver Kreisix, and this is the replay of the restart then, with the man currently in P12. So as you can see, we went racing, and Linus Donovan sitting directly ahead of us. We were going 4 wide ahead. 4 wide into turn number 1. Daniel Gottschalk with the inside, Tristan Debecourt and Keanu Leetard in the middle, and those 3 all running wide. Nadi Perry just about surviving. Donovan getting past them all, and this is where we had the contact between Tristan Debecourt and also Kreisix, and Daniel Gottschalk all involved in that. Korsman very close to the back of Kuba, so we could be getting a few dive bombs coming in very, very shortly. We'll ride on board of the Mercedes, who will dive to the inside late on the brakes, finds the gap to the inside, but Kuba holds in there. He keeps his position. Does Kuba, who keeps P4, and there's battle though further back, and that is Linus Donovan getting past Jane Tripkov. That's late on the brakes, and Jane Tripkov has been spun around by Sasha Neeb momentarily, and that's going to allow actually Sasha Neeb has spun around in the 2nd phase of the contact there.
Look at that, Daniel Gottschalk and Nico Viani going side by side through the Senna S's, just staying on the track for a time being. But Nico Viani wants to go for once again an overtaking move, almost a Vettel and Leclerc action there as well. But it will be Nico Viani. No, actually not. They're still side by side going up the track as Daniel Gottschalk almost loses it there. But there's Nico Viani winning out the fight there.
The rain has arrived. So it will be a last few laps of survival. The rain coming in very late. Wallstow's going to try and get past Felipe Salza. These could be the last few moments of DRS. And Luke Wallstow's in the slipstream. He's going to the outside. He's got DRS. open. He's up to Nardi's way for P4. But look how much it's raining now. And Nardi Perez is having to defend. Here comes Korsman. Can he go round the outside of 4? The track is wet. They're still battling though. And Korsman's going to be pushed off wide. And they're still going to go side by side. This could easily result in contact for the two drivers. But Korsman's got the inside. And still Nardi Perez refuses to yield. They run wheel to wheel. And it seems like that Korsman's going to be ahead. But Nardi Perez fights back. He goes off the road slightly. He's wide. And that will open the door for Linus Donovan to try and find a way through. And Emil Lundell, what an amazing drive for him, who won in France, but due to a penalty was removed of that victory, is going to take victory here in Sao Paulo. Emil Lundell wins here in PSGL. He beat home Luke Warstow in an amazing race all the way till the end. That was some box office racing, and we cannot wait for some more today. In the commentary box, my name is Omi, and alongside me for every single race this season, and in this one as well, is of course the lovely Mr. Mitt Sky.
Welcome everyone to the season finale here around the Circuit of the Americas in Texas. Very curious to see what's going to happen tonight. The title has already been decided, was already so a couple races ago. Felipe Sasa claiming that title. Constructor standings also confirmed now for Red Bull, but we still have a fight for P3 in the standings on our hands, so let's keep our focus on that for tonight.
Yep, absolutely. There's still a lot to fight for the drivers, and it's just about ending the game cycle on a high. If you guys were with us a few minutes ago when I did mention before the highlights, it is the last race not only of the season but also the game cycle, with F1 24 coming out in just over a month. It's coming up very, very quickly, and we're getting a lot of deep dives and a lot of information about it. So a lot to be excited for as we will get ready to do it all over again. Three amazing seasons surely for us once again on a new game, so cannot wait for that. But F1 23 definitely has been a great game, and we definitely have had quite a lot of good racing.
Yeah, I think compared to some of the games before, it's definitely been a little bit of step into the right direction, with at least for me, the game before not having that great of a handling. So extremely curious how it's going to be next game cycle, so in F1 24. So far in the beta, or some mixed feedback on it, but it turns out you use the correct setting that the handling was already a little bit better. So definitely eager to try that out, and hopefully all the players will enjoy it, at least more than they've done this year, even though this year was quite okay.
Absolutely as well. So we take a look at the calendar, and everything is done bar round 10 at Texas. Now, this is officially round 11 of the season to stay, basically, with everything officially, because of course PlayStation still had that round at Zandvoort, we didn't. So we just so for us it is the 10th race of the season, but officially round 11. So we cannot wait to get this one underway. But Brazil last time, I admit, that definitely has to be the race of the season. That was extraordinary, and definitely the one which gave me a headache when creating the highlights.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone just saw it as well in the highlights. It was a great race. We knew that the threat of rain was looming. We knew that the rain was going to come. It came so much later than we expected, but because of the expected rain, I think some of the drivers also tried to go for some unforced errors, which caused a couple of safety car sessions. And then when the rain did come out, pretty much all the action had already happened, but we saw some crazy takes around the outside, I believe in turn 7, where you really can't overtakes happen. So a great race all the way throughout, and yeah, one can only hope that we can replicate a similar thing in Texas. But that is a big bar, and that's it's going to be a tough one to break.
It was Keanu Leetard, as you mentioned, with the move all the way around the outside of Ferradura. Let's see how he gets on today, as at a best finish of second. He's only been on the podium once, and it was of course that race where we did get second. Let's see if he can try upgrade that and end the season on a high. Now, one advantage the drivers do have is that there are less drivers, so there are going to be opportunities, but we are going to take you through the standings, and we'll talk more about who do we have, who we don't in qualifying. But we do have Felipe Salza confirmed as your champion, as we mentioned. Luke Walster isn't racing today, but he is in second place in the standings. Then you have Jonas Martins, of course, not participating due to all of his Ferrari Esports commitments, but still could secure third in the title race.
Yeah, the one driver that he has to watch out for mainly is T.S. Korsman. He's on 43.7 points away, but also Zach Miles racing tonight. He's 9 points away. Keanu Luta also there, 14 points away. And I believe I saw Kuba as well. Yeah, Kubatraziak's also there. He's 11 points away. So there's 4 drivers that can potentially leapfrog him. So third is not yet secured. So it's basically, well, it's a 5-man fight, but one driver won't be putting up any fight for that tonight. But 4 drivers definitely will be trying to go for a third spot in the standings. So still something to fight for. And I do wonder, out of those 4 drivers, who you guys are supporting in the chat. So do let us know.
Do let us know indeed of who you're supporting in the title race for third, and also, of course, in the race overall. Here are your constructor standings. Red Bull have got that all sorted there. It is Haas in second, though Alpine in third. So everything still, though, to play for all of the other positions. But I'm sure it's going to be really, really exciting stuff here at Austin, Texas. Qualifying is just getting underway. Big thanks, of course, to our amazing sponsors, our SRC, and also GT Omega. I'm sure that it's going to be a great race, and we're of course going to have their sponsor boards all over it with the action in the middle. So cannot wait to be surrounded with all
that's
that.
rain.
We are currently surrounded though by some rain, so that's going to be really, really extraordinary. But here is the racetrack for you then. It is 5.5 kilometers, 3.4 miles, 20 turns for the drivers to navigate 2 DRS zones with a back straight, delivering some fantastic opportunities to overtake. We have 2 DRS zones, as I mentioned. They will not be in use as it stands though in qualifying, because as you can see on your screen, it is raining.
It is raining a lot. Yeah, we just saw T.S. Korsman mention in the chat, can we have like 10 people DNF so we can get P3 in the championship? Thank you very much. So not his favorite track, but he's hoping to still secure that third place in quali. Definitely not happy either. Already seeing some sad emojis in the chat as well, posted by T.S. So he will not be looking forward to this qualifying. Just to add to everything you mentioned about this track saw his first race in 2012. It's one of many Herman Tilke circuits, although I have to admit this is one of the better ones, one that I thoroughly enjoy. I believe Istanbul Park is also by him, right? I really love that track. I hope it returns soon. And yeah, the last bit that we need to know, your pit lane time loss for today, 18.6 seconds. That will be important later on in the race.
It will indeed. Now, we got told in the live chat by Malum that Sparky was going to miss qualifying. He was having a few issues with his PC. He has been able to join, and yet to get rid of that confusion as well. Sparky, of course, we've known him for most of the season as Sparky, but last race he was racing as Sashani, but he will be doing so again. So just to get that confusion out of the way for anyone wondering, he is Sparky, so keep an eye on him, but of course we'll be referring him as Sashanib, as we do, of course, the full names for the majority of these drivers, of course. So we now see the order go to 14 as the McLaren driver has joined. So it'll be Sashanib and Zach Miles for McLaren. A lot of teams here today not having both drivers, of course, due to low attendance and reserves, not being able to fill all spots. So we have got 14 drivers in the field today, all which will hopefully provide us with some fantastic action. But compared to last season in F4, I think we've still had some very good attendance, as Nadi Perez is about to begin his lap, but he's slightly wide through 19, and he's got to make his way through turn number 20 and down towards turn number 1.
Yeah, last season around, the attendance was also quite good. I believe it was a little bit less for the final race at least. As you mentioned about the reserve drivers, we have 2 reserve drivers here tonight out of the 14, Nico Viani in the Zauber and Will Gibson in the Mercedes. And yeah, as mentioned, none of the Haas drivers being here today. So Haas, I believe, the only team that does not have a driver on the grid for tonight, where most teams still have both drivers on the grid. So that is really, really good to see. Now, Nairo Perez has started his first lap. He is out on the inters. It looked to be raining much harder than I thought it was from the pit lane, but it looks like this is intermediate territory, as Nairo Perez already making his way into the second sector. Very soon going to be ending up in the hard braking zone, the slowest corner of the track, before reaching the back straight, where you can also get to the speed trap.
So Nairo Perez then pushes on to turn number 11 and about to make his way down towards the 12th corner of the racetrack, which has seen so much action here in esports, especially with F1 esports, the pinnacle of it all, of course, where all of the drivers really want to end up. That had an absolutely fantastic battle in 2022. And as Alex Jakes described it, you really did have to see it to believe it. It was absolutely phenomenal stuff. there. So let's hope we're going to get quite a bit of that action in the race later on, but it's going to be a tough qualifying for the driver, especially if it's an improving circuit. If it's an improving circuit, we could be doing exactly what Formula 1 did in China with their sprint shootout, with an improving circuit and a lot of improvements for the drivers. And we do get it around once a season here, but let's see if we're going to get it here at Austin, Texas. First of all, what we are going to get is Nadi Perez making his way out of the final corner and over the line and setting the lap time for the rest of the drivers to beat. They will be going faster and faster. Right now, though, the lap to beat is a 1 minute 47.002.
Yeah, and that lap was driven without the use of ERS. Nardi Perez doing that in a lot of qualifying sessions, although I do have to wonder why he's doing it tonight, as the rain is already out there, so might as well just go for several push laps. And here it comes Carlos Torres. He does indeed beat that quite significantly, 145.8. We also have Felipe Salsa currently on track, set a purple second sector, although that might just be for himself, and with it being the first run, that should not be too many surprise. There are still some drivers coming around. I believe Emil Lundell's next one coming around. Now, there's a new driver starting to track that. It might across the line. It was Zach Miles starting a lap. There's still, I think that's Tristan Debecourt. Tristan Debecourt was indeed, that's over a second, almost a second quicker. But here comes Felipe. He's already our championship winner. Can he go quickest too? He can indeed. He's 2 tenths up on Tristan Debecourt. The best lap so far, as we see the Mercedes drivers, Tia Scoresman, start the lap, and Nico Viani coming through in fourth with a 146.3.
Absolutely. So we're on board with Julian, who is fighting the car right now. So it's Felipe Salza, it's Tristan Debecourt, then it's Kuba, who is the driver who has just been promoted up to third position. So a great lap time by Felipe Salza. Straight away, let's see what Julian can do. He'll go up to fourth, goes ahead of Carlos Torres, Nico Viani, and his teammate Nadi Perez. So great stuff there by Julian. And as we mentioned in the pre-race, or in pre-qualifying, there is a lot of opportunities for the drivers, especially for drivers who haven't been able to fight for the points much this season. We've only got 14 drivers, possibly with a few retirements as well, as we usually do have. So there is quite a big opportunity for every single driver in this race, especially if it does rain in the race, for them to score points. So it's going to be wide open, and it's still going to be a very exciting race.
It definitely will be. It looks like Emil Lundell's aboard this lap. Tius and Zach have picked up track limits in their laps. So the only driver currently on a fast lap, at least just starting one, is Sasha Neep. All the other drivers either ending their lap in the pit lane, which are Will Gibson, Keanu Lito, and Kryzik's currently on an out lap. But quite a few drivers out there on track, trying to get a little bit of a feel of the track in these changing weather conditions. But it looks like the track's starting to improve slightly. So I think most of the drivers will want to wait a little bit longer, hopefully get a better and cleaner run towards the end of the session. And that will have to be the lap time that puts them close up front to the grid, as Sasha also invalidates at the start of Sector 2.
So they're all pushing on right now at the moment. Kryzik's about to go on a push lap now. So Kryzik's about to begin a push lap. So is Will Gibson, who is in the Mercedes car. So 10 minutes to go on the clock, and this is a perfect opportunity to hear from the man who currently sits in the pit lane, Zach Miles, and we're going to be able to hear from him about how the season's been for him so far and his thoughts going into this race as he tries to move up and take P3 in the standings.
Yeah, so it's been a very up and down season. Starting with Australia, I've been punted around, and it's been a quite a bumpy season, very up and down. I've had good pace at a lot of tracks, which is a strong showing, but unfortunately, it's been some bad luck. But I hope that'll even out for Kota tonight. I need a big night. I need to outscore Tiaz to beat him, and I need to get a podium to beat Iona. So that's what I'm going to be aiming to do. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it turns out.
Great to hear there from Zach Miles, so we'll see how he gets on today. He is hoping for a podium, and he really does want to get third. Finished second last season to the man you're on board with right now, Tyus Korsman in the F5 Championship. They took it down all the way till the last race. He's trying to secure third right now this season though. Tyres causing using quite a bit of curb, and the car running out wide as a result. And that was through turn 19. Right now it's through turn 20, and let's see what the Mercedes driver is going to be able to put on the board. It's a lap that's good enough to improve right now to the front row. So it's Felipe Sousa alongside Tyres Korsman as it stands. But as you mentioned, the circuit seems to be improving, so the order is going to completely change around in the next run.
Yeah, it looks like Tias is already able to drive fairly consistently. Of course, had his first lap deleted for track limits. That would have been a 1:44.6, which also had been provisional pole for the time being. And now his second lap, which was clean, at 1:44.8, although he did go a little bit wide into turn 19. Sorry. So, was it? Yeah, just before turn 19. Went a little bit wide, which probably cost him that bit of time that could have put him on provisional pole for now. So definitely a driver we need to watch out for later on, as it's actually Krysik's going quicker out of nowhere. 3/10 up on Felipe. Shows the track really is improving. That's also why Felipe has currently left the pit lane. Driver I'm currently watching now is the Mercedes of Will Gibson, one of our reserve drivers for tonight, but seemingly on their way fairly quickly.
So, Sasha Neeb about to come over the line. That was a great effort by Krysiks to go to the top, but Sasha Neeb goes into P8. But kind of to be expected by Krysiks, because the circuit is improving, as we mentioned. And let's see then. And the rain is starting to stop as well. Felipe Sousa is beginning a lap. Mitch, do you want to take us through a full lap around the circuit?
Yes, we can, although we definitely should see what Will Gibson is going to do, as he is on for quite the flyer. We're now on board with Felipe going through the twisty section. This is normally 6-7 before you switch back to 5th gear. Going back a little bit more. Early shift up back onto 5. Shifting one back. And then making sure you take a lot of inner curb here. Good early exit. A lot of inner curb again as well. Gibson goes fastest. Good line for Felipe as has purple in sector 1. Now heading into the hard braking zone. This is turn 11 out of the 20. Take a little bit of curb. A little bit of sliding there, but still managed to hit the apex there. Felipe on for a pretty good run down on the back straight, which is where he hit the speed trap. Now, in these changing weather conditions, top speed a little bit lower, but Felipe is still managing to go over 300 kilometers an hour before hard braking, 120 meters, hitting a lot of the inner curve there. Surprised he didn't get track limits there, so that must have been one epic way to hit it. But look at that. He is almost a second up on his own fastest lap time, as Keanu Lito goes a second quicker than Felipe was. So Felipe on for a close run for a provisional pole. Now, through this section where we saw Max do a crazy overtake on Kimi Räikkönen a couple seasons ago, where he got penalized for, Felipe keeps it cleanly there. Still quite wet out there on track, but the rain seems to have stopped. So the track is going to improve rapidly now. Not sure if we're going to see any runs still on the soft compound, but Felipe is going to come through at quite the improvement, a 1:43.2, half a second up on the entire grid.
So, Will Gibson going to the top, then Keanu Lito going to the top, then Felipe Sousa going to the top. You know how this session is going to be. It's going to be improvement on improvement. Zach Miles has put the car on the front row right now at the moment, but Felipe Sousa is clear by a couple of tenths. So Felipe Sousa nailing the dry conditions, nailing the wet conditions, whatever conditions you throw at him, he is doing very well. Will Gibson's trying to improve. Krajic's is the first driver to possibly consider softs in the pit lane. Will Gibson over the line, he now improves back to second position, and we're going to be in for some session is Krysiks. He's put softs on in the pit lane, but is he going to be brave enough to bring them out onto the circuit, maybe for the last one? He's put it back onto inters. I think he's debating it, whether he wants the inters or the softs.
Currently seeing what Zach Miles is doing. He's fairly low on ERS once he hits the back straight, still using a bit of it. Of course, we already saw him jump a little bit further up, so he's now third on the standings so far. But I'm very surprised seeing how well Will Gibson is doing. Currently about a tenth and a half away from Felipe, our championship winner, so he's making a fairly strong impression so far tonight. Emil Lundell also starting his first real flyer, as he set a few banker lap times. He's now at the start of Sector 2. So let's see if Emil Lundell can move up further to the grid. Also one of the drivers who's been fairly strong recently here in F1 23. So let's see if he can challenge the drivers for a pole position tonight.
Absolutely. So, Zach Miles pushing on right now then, and making his way to not pushing on at this stage, but is going to be very, very shortly. 4 minutes to go on the clock. And cries, because I think he's getting us excited. He keeps going from softs to inters to soft to inters. He's really having that debate right now between the two tyres right now. But Korsman on the inters still, and as is everyone. Keanu Leetard now going for it. So maybe it's the two AlphaTauris are doing it at this stage. So let's see who's going to leave the pit lane though, because they're all debating it. They're all thinking about it. But it's all going to be about who is actually going to go onto the circuit with those tyres attached to the car. And they're still all pushing on now. We have a lot of support coming in for Tyres Korsman. He is indeed trying to get P3 in the championship. And we're, of course, watching him right now. The Mercedes driver pushing on. Tristan Debecourt is in third as Korsman is about to begin a lap. So is Nico Viani.
Yeah, and it looks like drivers are going to decide now to go for the softs. We saw Emil Lundell being on for quite an improvement that would have put him in the top 5. But he did dive into the pit lane, so I think he wants to go for a run on the inters. It looks like Felipe is coming out at least on another set of inters, so he doesn't think that it is ready just quite yet. I'm not sure what the AlphaTauri is doing. We saw an AlphaTauri leave the pit lane. But it looks like they are still on inter. Zach Miles has seemingly switched to the soft, still in the pit lane. But I would assume that some of the drivers are going to wait all the way to the end. I think 1 or 2 drivers are definitely going to make that gamble, although Zach Miles seemingly has switched back once again. But yeah, if any of the drivers I would expect to make the switch, that might be Emil Lundell. He's got nothing to lose, really.
He has got nothing to lose indeed. Korsman currently is down by 0.2 of a second in the first sector. Is Tyres Korsman. Felipe Sainz is out onto the circuit. So who is going to gamble for the soft compound of tyres? The circuit still seems very wet, but if you are Emil Lundell, you may want to go for it, because who knows what can happen. But the majority are going to be going on inters, because they know that with how much the circuit's improving, if you don't go out there, and if you do go on the wrong tyre, you could be demoted all the way to the bottom of the field, and you will be demoted to the bottom of the field. Here is Nico Viani then getting ready to put his foot flat to the floor through the S section and looking to try and find an improvement. He's currently sits in P11, but this is the session where we could get some big shocks. We've right now got Will Gibson on the front row. You've got Nico Viani, who is going quicker by 1/10 of a second. So Nico Viani's going quicker by 1/10 of a second in the first sector, and he's about now to tackle the car through turn number 11 is the Sauber man, and he'll put his foot flat to the floor out of the corner. He could be getting a bit of traffic ahead, because look at the mini-map, look how much cars they are on the back straight right now. So Nico Viani pushing on at the moment. Korsman also is going to be pushing on, and look at the traffic at the final corner. They're all going to try get out of the way, but it's going to be a bit of a distraction here for Nico Viani, who is slightly wide, and he's been blocked by the 2 McLarens, both battling for track position on the road and both going side by side. So that's not what they wanted. Korsman's backed out of his lap time. Nico Viani's literally overtaking cars. He's having to fight cars. He's having to fight the Williams there. So Nico Viani's going to do the same thing. He's going to take the same approach, and this could cause a bit of chaos. He's going to do the same approach as Tyres Korsman, back out of the lap time, and try and push again. We're about to see so many drivers push on for their laps, and Korsman is going to be the first of them. So Korsman is going to, he knows that that lap wasn't the best it could have been, so he's going to try do it again when the circuit is at its absolute best. We've got 10 seconds to go on the clock, and it could be anyone's pole position this right now, and Korsman is up by 35 thousandths of a second in the first sector. Korsman is looking good. Debecourt will not be able to find an improvement at the end of this session. So Korsman will be the first driver over the line, and he's about to go down to turn number 11 on this circuit, and he pushes on out of the corner. Let's see if Korsman is going to be able to find more improvement in the second part of the lap and in the third part of the lap, because as you can see, there is no more rain falling. The circuit's going to be improving with every meter that these cars run, as Nico Viani has retired from the qualifying session, so he'll start at best at 11th, but Carlos Torres, Nadi Perez and Emil Lundell could try and could try and take that one away. Tyus Korsman fighting away with the car, and he's off. Korsman running wide. Still his lap time is going to count though, and now let's see. Can Tyus Korsman now push on and still try find an improvement, because the circuit is improving as we've already mentioned. As he goes through turn number 19, about to go through turn number 20, this could be really good for Tyus Korsman. Where can Tyus Korsman go provisionally? Because with others going over the line, it could all change around. Korsman's backed out of it. So Korsman has backed out of the lap. So we aren't going to be getting a late improvement by Tyus Korsman. We are going to be seeing though Ema Lundell in a bunch of traffic as Nardi Perez goes to second. And the Ferrari of Carlos Torres next to come over the line. Where can Carlos Torres go? He goes up into ninth. Felipe Sousa increases his advantage at the front of the field. Who can challenge that? Leotard's to the front row. Julian's now to the front row. The second position could have a lot of changes. Miles now takes it as they all come over the line. It's Kubo in fourth. Kryzik's also got a lap in there at the end. But what an incredible session coming to a close, and I knew it was going to change around. Will Gibson, who was on the front row, finds himself down in 10th, and after all of that, it is still Felipe Sousa in the dry, in the wet, dominating the field. He's beat the field by nearly 7/10 of a second.
Great qualifying once again by Felipe. We saw that the trading, shall we go out on the softs, but in the end, nobody really dared to do so. We saw that Tristan way too late, wasn't able to set a lap time just yet, but because the time was running so slow, about 7 or 8 drivers started within the last 10 seconds, which meant that the drivers were definitely hindering one another quite severely, which is why nobody really could to that lap time that Felipe did set. Julian, I believe, did get a clean run, but Zach Miles, Emil Lundell, Kuba Trzeziak, Kryzik, they all didn't really get the cleanest off run. It was the most they could do with everything there. I'm not entirely sure why Tia's aborted, though. I'm not sure if there was anything wrong with the tire, if something happened on his end, but he seemed to be on for a fairly quick run, but then at the end, it looked like his tires were just like, I mean, I saw a lot of rubber flying off the car, but I have no idea what happened, to be honest. Looked weird.
Okay, we're going to quickly go for a break because we may not have a restart, so we'll be back in a couple of seconds. So you join us back now to the sunny Austin, Texas right now at the moment. And we aren't going to be able to get a word in with GT Mega. You've just seen them appear there at the side of the screen. We aren't going to be able to get a word in from them. As we've just been told, there is no lobby restart. So not as usual. So it's not normal that we don't have a lobby restart. But there's no penalties, so we don't need one for this one. We're going to have, though, for the final time, 5 lights. And we go racing for the final race of the season with a good reaction time from Felipe Sousa, who's going to hold the lead. Comes across to make sure that he's got P1 into turn number 1. Zach Miles trying to go round the outside. Julian trying to defend there from Emil Lundell, who's getting to the inside line. Off the road goes Julian as Felipe Sousa still is the leader. Emil Lundell trying to challenge for second position. And he's got Julian for company on the inside as we go side by side through the S section on the opening lap of the race. It's Nico Viani currently in last position. Are they all going to be able to make their way through the S section? Nardi Perez now dropping down to 14th, but it's going to be Felipe Sousa still the leader as we close now the first sector.
Yeah, Nico Viani been able to pick up quite a few positions now in P11. The only driver who's on the medium set of compounds, 3 drivers are on softs. Will Gibson has made up quite a few positions. Tristan Debicor and also Carlos Torres. All the other drivers out there on the hards for tonight. But looks like, especially around place 5, the fight is also close because Emil Lundell not far away from 3rd. Will Gibson under heavy pressure by Kuba Trzeziak and Kryzik, but also behind there. Look at that. There comes Tristan Debicor with the overtake onto Keanu Luto, and it looks like he's been able to succeed. So I will immediately be looking to overtake Kryzik as well as Carlos Torres and Nico Viani having a little bit of a fight. So despite the grid being thinned out a little bit for tonight, the fights are on, and the Ferrari goes wide. That was Carlos Torres. Lose a few positions because of that, and Tias, the man who's fighting for 3rd in the championship, currently up in P11.
So, Kryzik's currently running in P8 just ahead of his teammate Keanu Litard, who's sending one to the inside of turnover 20, and he makes the pass. So great stuff by Keanu Litard. Emil Lundell has just been passed by Will Gibson, who's on the soft compound tyre. So, soft for Will Gibson, and we have soft for Tristan Debecourt and also Carlos Torres, as Nick Aviani has got the medium compound of tyres attached to the car. We are going wheel to wheel in the background. That's Tyres Korsman getting his way past Carlos Torres, who you would expect to have the grip at this stage, but Tyres Korsman holding on to the position. Will Gibson pushing right now Julian through the corner and waiting for his opportunity to try and get through. So he's looking for his opportunity right now, is Will Gibson, and waiting for the road to open up a bit, and it's about to do so because it's very, very wide as we go down towards turn number 11, and Will Gibson is going to be able to move through. So Will Gibson up to third, so he's now going to go chasing on the top two, but Will Gibson going different with the strategy, and he needs to make overtakes at this stage of the race. He's doing exactly that. Another driver the same story applies to is Tristan Debecourt. He's got past Kuba then down the straight, so Tristan Debecourt moving up to P6, and Nico Viani in the background on the mediums, the only driver on the mediums in the field, gets past Keanu Litard as well.
Yeah, so drivers on the alternative strategy is definitely overtaking quite a bit, overtaking a little bit more than you would usually see. So that is good to see that the alternative strategy so far is working out for them. So Will Gibson really is trying to push that Mercedes all the way to the max, using quite a bit of hopefully to get closer to Zach Miles. But keep in mind where Zach Miles is at the moment, I believe that would be enough to leapfrog both Tias and our Ferrari man, reserve driver, and get P3 in the standings. So it's looking very good for Zach Miles so far. It means Tias will need to overtake a little bit more as DRS gets enabled. Tias currently in P12. Is being overtaken by Carlos Torres once more. But then again, Carlos is on a different strategy. So I do wonder how Tias is going to cope with this and if he can improve a little bit more. It looks like Will Gibson, though, starting to get just a little bit closer to Zach Miles, but is not gaining just quite enough to really go for some overtakes there. I think the next driver that will either be going for moves will be Tristan Debecourt on Emil Lundell or Carlos Torres on Kryzik for P10.
So, all of them currently still in a bit of a DRS train, as we would expect. DRS is now enabled, so we'll be making our way down the straight and looking and seeing who is using a bit of ERS, because that's where we are going to get some moves. It is going to be Felipe Sousa, still the leader by 0.5 of a second. Zach Miles doing exactly what he needs to be. That is going to be late on the brakes. In the background by Nico Viani, who has hit Tristan Debecourt, I believe, who spun around, and also a bit of front wing damage. Nico Viani is out of the race, and we've had contact there, and we have a bit of front wing also making a bid for freedom from one of the Sauber cars, but absolute chaos there.
Absolute chaos indeed, as we see Tristan Debecourt fall down the order quite a bit. Now was in a fight with Tias Korsman. Look at the gap that has emerged there. I think there's something wrong with the telemetry there, because the gaps seem to be much, much bigger than they actually are. Hopefully we'll get reset as the drivers come around the start-finish line, as they do now. Still all the drivers, all 13 drivers up in contention who are within DRS range. Nico Viani saying sorry and cheers. So I think he might have had something to do with the contact that happened there. Of course, we might hear more about that later on in the race. Looks like in the meantime, though, Will Gibson has gone to the back of Zach Miles' car, only about 0.2 away. So we might see an overtake happen in a moment just now. Kuba Tresiak picks up the first penalty for tonight. It's a 3-second time penalty for track limits.
So, Kuba, the first driver to pick up a penalty, as you mentioned. So, let's see now. Will Gibson, can he make the move for second position? Does he want to make the move? He's running at a good pace, but the soft tyres will start to degrade, and that pace will mean that he will be dropping down a bit. Still, all of the drivers in formation as we go down towards the braking zone, lap 4 out of 28, and it just seems like one DRS train at the moment, but as we've seen so far this season, it can all explode very, very quickly. So we're in a bit of a waiting phase, and then we'll have some amazing PSGL action, just like we've seen in every single round this season, and especially coming off Brazil. We probably won't get to Brazil standards. That was absolutely box office stuff. But we're still going to get an exciting race with 13 drivers now remaining. We've already lost one, as we mentioned. Nico Viani retiring from the race not the way that he wanted to end the season.
Definitely not, no. And yeah, as you rightfully mentioned, last race out there in Brazil, likely the best race of the season. So if you guys have not caught the action that we saw last week, definitely do make sure to watch that back and see what happened there, because with the looming threat of rain, 2 safety cars, lots of overtakes, pretty much impossible overtakes as well, a couple mistakes to fight backs, everything was in it. Amazing race. As for tonight, we've had a little bit of action on track. The different strategies definitely coming into it's nice to see, but it looks like at this stage of the race, the softs are starting to fall off a little bit, and it looks like Emil Lundell has just got on the overtake done onto Julian 28, so he moves up into 4th. They're still side by side pretty much, as Emil Lundell's using his overtake, but also on the inside, Julian 28 is using his overtake, so they're going to go side by side. Is Emil Lundell going to try and send it? He will stay behind for the time being, but because of all that fighting and ERS usage, they're now towards the back of Will Gibson once more. So we're going to see more and more pressure starting to appear around position 3, as we see Carlos Torres has found himself outside the ERS range of Kryzik, which means that Tristan Debecourt and T.S. Korsman will be looking to overtake him in the next few laps.
Yep, and for that race last time out in Brazil, of course, so you can go once we finish here with the action at Austin, Texas. After this, you can just rewind the stream and basically go to the highlights. Of course, 9 minutes of amazing action from there. Emil Lundell still pushing Julian though, and we still have a great race on our hands. In towards turn number 1, wide for Emil Lundell there. He got very close to the back of Julian, almost hit out Julian. We take a look further back. That's where the racing is. That's Korsman getting past Debecourt. Carlos Torres also following through, and they're not separated by anything as we go into the snake section here, and there's 4 cars all pushing each other right now. Korsman, Carlos Torres, Tristan Debecourt, Sasha Neve, and Nardi Perez just waiting right now in behind, but he's going to be trying to make some moves as well. So we're going to be getting quite a bit of battling on this lap, we would guess. Will Gibson, now the soft tyres are starting to degrade, and that will open the door for Julian to try and make a move. So we're going to be getting quite a few battles going on here. So out of the slipstream and moving up to 3rd is Julian. So Will Gibson has been passed. He's demoted down to P4. We take a look further back though to see if anyone else is going to be making some moves. It seems like they're all going to behave themselves further back in the field, and they're all going to get their breaking point sorted without hitting each other. So we've had a change for 3rd. Up goes Julian, and Will Gibson now is going to be demoted down the order with the soft starting to fade. Same can be said about Carlos Torres and Tristan Debecourt, but we've already seen that come into fruition.
Yeah, indeed. Both of the last 2 soft runners have been overtaken by Tias, who now finds himself in P9, but a massive gap up ahead for him now, 2.8 seconds, which means that strategy-wise, he will need to try something special in order to get back in the DRS train after the first and likely only set of pit stops. Because how we've seen it so far, it seems quite unlikely for a safety car to come out unless there's some severe contact in Sector 1 or at the end of the backstretch. But even then, especially the backstretch, the safety car doesn't come out too often, even after contact or spinning off. So that is something we should keep an eye on. For now, it looks like Will Gibson really starting to get under intense pressure by Emil Lundell just behind. So I think on the back straight, he's going to get overtaken by Emil, and Emil will move himself up into P4. Driver that, to be honest, we haven't seen too much of so far this season, but I think next time around and next season, he is going to be one of the drivers to watch, because lately he's been having some insane pace.
Emil Lundell uses the ERS, pulls alongside, and will make the move down into the braking zone, close to Zach Miles has been to the race lead, but deciding to sit behind as Emil Lundell does complete the move into the braking zone. Will Gibson trying to fight back with the up and unders with the switchback, and Will Gibson is actually still there. He's still there, but he knows it's not his fight at this stage of the contest. He'll try come back later on in this one. We take a look further back, and that is Tristan Debecourt on the back of Carlos Torres, and he's pulling alongside, trying to make the move, trying alternative different racing lines right now. Korsman now trying to get away from this battle. This is his ticket now to get away from this battle, because Debecourt and Carlos Torres having one scrap. Torres picking up a penalty, Debecourt almost spinning the car, so it was all happening through turn number 19 for these two drivers. They've still got DRS. Carlos Torres has still got DRS though to try and pull back away. We take a look though to Nadi Perez, looking left, looking right for the move, and instead it might be a move for Sasha Neeb. It might be a move of his own for Sasha Neeb to try to get through on Tristan Debecourt into turn number 1. But Nadi Perez is waiting and is looming large in the mirrors right now for the McLaren driver as we make our way through the snake section once again, and Nadi Perez looking to go on the attack. Let's see if he's going to be able to get close enough. Another driver looking to go on the attack is Emil Lundell, who has a little look to the inside. Back through goes as Carlos Torres loses a few places there, and Nadi Perez is also going to find a way through into the braking zone, so Nadi Perez is going to also make his way through. Emil Lundell now out of the slipstream. The battle for the final place on the podium is about to happen. That's late on the brakes by Emil Lundell, who's also passed Zach Miles momentarily. Zach Miles re-overtakes, but Emil Lundell so late on the brakes, and he could have also taken second, but Zach Miles just about holds on.
That was a great opportunity by Emil Lundell. It's gone past one, almost gone past the second as well, as you rightfully mentioned, and this could be the ticket. Only 0.8 of a second. We'll need to prove a little bit more, but with the DRS section zone already being in front of turn 19, that means he will not be able to push it away, at least for a time being. Tias now, in the meantime, finds himself in no man's land, 3.9 seconds up ahead, and over a second behind him is Tristan Debecourt. So no DRS that he can get, no DRS that any other drivers can get from him. The 10 to 13 still within a train of one another, and the top 8 being in a train of one another. But Will Gibson seems to be at the stage where he's going to lose quite a bit of position, so he will need to watch out he doesn't lose too much time here in the first sector, because otherwise Kuba is going to leapfrog him down the back straight.
So they are all still looking to attack here on the 9th lap, and Tyus Korsman luckily has been able to break away for his sake, and that's going to be excellent news for us, because that means that this train we're going to be getting some brilliant battling between Tristan Debecourt, who is backing them all up, with Sasha Neeb getting closer and closer. Into the braking zone we go with the McLaren driver, and let's see if he can now try and get past Tristan Debecourt. As we mentioned earlier on, more known as Sparky as well. Kuba pulls the move on Will Gibson, and Will Gibson though still fighting it, so Kuba is going to get to the inside. He'll take the position. And also Sasha Neeb was able to get past Tristan Debecourt there. So Tristan Debecourt has been passed. Through goes Sasha Neeb.
Through goes Sasha to have Keanu Lito with the overtake onto Will Gibson. Again, one of the stages on the track where you normally would not expect it. But it looks like the softs run are now really starting to fall off. But they will need to hold on just a little bit more if they want to go for a one-stopper. Stopping for the hards just now might be a tad bit too early, but it looks like the tire deg has been a little bit higher than some of these drivers are expecting, meaning the ideal strategy either being medium hards or hard mediums, with most of the drivers being on the hards. So it looks like they're doing well so far. In the meantime, Zach Miles has gone a little bit back onto Felipe. That gap has shrunk 2.5 of a second. Emil Lundell very close to Zach Miles, just behind, and will still find himself in the train. Will Gibson once again will have to watch in his rearview mirrors, because it is very likely that the end of the backstretch, Kryzix will be looking to go for an overtake onto him.
Could also be Emil Lundell, who took his first race victory that counted on the circuit last time out in Brazil. And let's see if he can make it back-to-back. Of course, was a winner in France earlier this year, but due to penalties, he was removed off that victory. And he's in contention once again today. Felipe Sousa from all the way from the start. We haven't seen this much. We haven't seen this often this season. We've had a few changes at least, but no, Felipe Sousa in the lead from the start. And Zach Miles has decided also not to overtake, and Sasha Neeb has closed and passed Tyus Korsman. So Tyus Korsman back with this train, and that's not what he wants. He's been passed by Sasha Neeb, as Kryzix also gets past Will Gibson, who is ghosted. He's off the road, but Kryzix is through up to P7. But yeah, Tyus Korsman not having the race he wanted, because he's a driver who we would usually expect to see in the leading train.
Yeah, and he needs to be in there as well if he still wants to finish P3 in the standings. We mentioned it prior to the race. Needs 8 points, as we see Sasha Neeb nearly crashing it out there in turn 19. But yeah, Tias needs at least 8 points to leapfrog Jonah Martins and to finish third in the standings. If he fails to do so tonight, then it won't be possible, of course, for him anymore, as this is the last race of the season. Currently finds himself in P4, but only a few points away is Zach Miles. And Zach Miles currently in P2, so that means that not only will Zach Miles pass the Horseman, at this moment, Zach Miles will be your third place finisher in the drivers' standings. So something to watch out for as well, as we see Kuba Trzeziak pick up his second penalty for tonight, another penalty for track limits. Carlos Torres also having one. If we look at the full penalties real quick, with Nardi Perez also picking one up. It's Nardi Perez and Carlos Torres on 3 seconds, Kuba Trzeziak on 6, all the other drivers, for now at least, without a penalty.
Emil Lundell really has been pushing Zach Miles through, and he was getting very close to a move. It was under a tenth when they made their way down to turn number 11, and surely Tyres calls on getting ready to put the move on Sashanib into the braking zone. The F5 champion from last season, of course, beating home the driver who's currently second in the race. He finished second in the championship in that amazing title battle that we had in F5, but it's been Felipe Sousa, who was also in that F5 season, but he's just been able to practice more, and it's just clicked for him more this season, and he's been consistent week in, week out, has Felipe Sousa. And let's see if anyone's going to be able, though, to beat him in this final race. Into the pit lane comes the Mercedes of Will Gibson. So Will Gibson's soft tyres are degrading. They were degrading. We saw how much time he was losing, so he's decided he's not going to stay out there, waste time. He's going to dive it into the pit lane to try get an undercut.
And he switched to mediums. That's a very interesting tire choice for Will Gibson. So I think what he wants to do is get towards the front of the grid, but I don't think there's any way for those mediums to last 17 laps. So that is a very risky strategy, especially because all the other drivers are going to come out on mediums as well, which are going to be much, much fresher than his tires are going to be. So interesting call by Will Gibson, but yeah, the softs really were at the end of their life. So now the main question is, how long are the other drivers going to stay out? If any of the drivers is coming in next, that must be Carlos Torres. Tristan Debicor still finds himself within the DRS train, but as soon as he gets overtaken by Nardi Perez and falls outside of that 1 second DRS window, then I would expect Tristan to come in as well. So perhaps a few more laps that Tristan is going to stay out. But around, lap 12, 13, I think we can expect the soft runners to come in.
Andy in the live chat trying to put the curse on Zach Miles as well to try help get Korsman to third in the standings as well. So that will be interesting to see how he goes. Well, he has been dropping off a bit, just pace-wise. He's still keeping it pointing in the right direction, but he's been looking more at his mirrors than ahead. So maybe it's working just a little bit, but we're on lap 12. We are about to go on to half race distance, and then it will be pit stop time for a lot of these drivers, and then it will be a fight all the way till the finish, and it could be an absolutely extraordinary finish as well here in Kota. I mentioned, of course, the F1 Esports finish that we had in 2022 here around this circuit. Jan Ortman going from third to first. The driver who went on to the final lap, the 20th and final lap, in first, ended up in fourth. So it was absolutely wild scenes, and we could definitely see that. This will be a race, really. It's been a calm race so far, but this will be a race where it will probably be decided at the end. You'll have many drivers just sitting behind in the slipstream, in the DRS, and they're all going to pounce on that last lap.
They are indeed all going to pound on the last lap, but also use a little bit more ERS when they're approaching the end of their stint. Emil Lundell actually almost completely full on ERS at this stage, so he is not at least going into the pit lane so far, because you do recharge quite a bit in the pit lane. For Zach Miles, he's in about 70%. That's more around the zone you would expect drivers to be at. Felipe Sousa at 89%. Also a bit more of a realistic value, because Emil Lundell in full is not where you ideally want to be at. Julian 28, 35% for him, so definitely needs to recharge a little bit more, use quite a bit more throughout the stints. Kuba on 51, if Canolito using a bit of overtake around the 80% mark, so he could be going into the pit lane shortly as well, based on the ERS. But yeah, with them switching to the mediums later on, I think the hards are going to stay out until lap 15 or 16, and then make their switch to the medium set of compounds.
Zach Miles has dropped outside the 1 second. He's still got DRS on this straight to try close back in, but Zach Miles, as we mentioned, losing time, and that is Kuba versus Julian, and that is going to be Julian just about ahead, and they were battling their way through in towards turn number 1, but that's getting tasty between those two. But we're seeing gaps form. Emil Lundell not even able to put Zach Miles under too much pressure right now. It's only the battle for Forte that looks very close at this stage, so the gaps are starting to form. Pit stops are happening. Tristan Debeco and Carlos Torres were the two drivers who dived it into the pit lane, and down towards the braking zone we go to see whether Kuba can try get the exit that he needs to try and put some pressure on Julian. Not the best exit for Julian, but Kuba with a bit of a snap on the exit as well, and he's a bit too far back. He'll use a little bit of ERS to try just get close. He used a bit on the straight, but he knows that there won't be a realistic opportunity to get through down to turn number 12. So we're halfway through this one right now. Tyus Korsman's 8 seconds back, so yeah, it's really not been the race for him, and he'll really be hoping for a safety car. And with how the season's gone, we could get a safety car. It is a wide circuit, you do have plenty of runoff, but if a front wing comes off, we've seen this quite a bit throughout the season. If a front wing comes off, that could be the reason for the safety car, so who knows.
And that is definitely going to be the case in here. Then again, if you lose a front wing, it really is all and done for it. It looks like some drivers are coming into the pits now. Zach Miles, Kuba Trzeziak, and Keanu Lito have come into the pit lane, wondering if Tias is going to do the same, which he will indeed. Sasha is staying out together with Will Gibson, Tristan Debecourt, of course, and Carlos Torres. Will Gibson too have already made their pit stops, and it looks like they are coming out behind Will Gibson, which of course was expected with his early pit stop. But yeah, perhaps strategy-wise, it's not too bad with him only stopping 3 laps sooner. But definitely going to be a tough one for Will this race. But yeah, the other drivers are now going to come in the next lap. They don't want to lose too much track position to the drivers that have already come in, and they will likely also switch to the mediums. So where we had a little bit of a shuffle starting to happen now, this is where the drivers are going to reposition. They're going to line up for the final few laps, and that is where the race really is going to kick off, and where we will also find out who is going to take the race win here tonight. In the meantime, in the chat, let us know who you think is going to win the race tonight. Will it be Felipe Sosa, Emil Lundell, Julian 28? Is that going to be Zach Miles, or are we going to see a surprise in Tias Korsman?
It really could be anyone's race. Who knows what's going to happen here? And let's see who is going to be taking home victory. And Zach Miles, when we were speaking to him earlier, so Felipe Sosa, Emil Lundell going round once again. When I was speaking with Zach Miles, he says he wanted to do the undercut. He was absolutely going to do it if he was in the middle of the pack, because as a lot of drivers have figured out in the season, there's a big chance if you are in the middle of the pack that you will be taken out of the race, or there will be some contact. We've seen quite a bit of this this season, so drivers of course have to try their best to get to the front to try avoid that. Zach Miles is at the front, but the undercut still seeming a good option for him, so they're going to have Will Gibson to pass Keanu Litard, putting some serious pressure as well on Kuba, so that's going to be a move that will be going on very, very shortly when we go onto the back straight.
Yeah, actually a few drivers still staying out. Felipe and Emil Lundell trying to have a little bit of a race on their own, although they must be coming in at the end of this lap. But we see the gap starting to form. Will Gibson is almost going to lose, as we see Emil Lundell overtaking Felipe now on the back straight. Likely a sign that he's going to enter the pit lane. But yeah, Will Gibson's gap to Zach Miles not being all too much. Kuba Trzeziak getting within the DRS range. So is Keanu Lito. Julian 28 stopping a lap later, 2 seconds away. Will need to close that gap very quickly. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to take back. And this is something we saw earlier on with Tias. If you fall out of the DRS range, that gap is going to increase and increase and increase by about 4 or 5 tenths a lap. And at the end, there's just no way for you to come back at. So for the drivers stopping a little bit later, they need to get within the DRS range as quickly as possible, as indeed we have our 2 race leaders come into the pits now, but they're likely going to come out around the place where Julian 28 is currently driving, which means that they will have a gap to close to our new provisional race leader, Will Gibson. If Nardi Perez comes in now, and he does indeed, so Will Gibson will be in the lead for the time being, but Zach Miles is within the DRS range, so on the backstretch, he's going to be closing that gap.
He is going to be closing the gap indeed. So, Zach Miles will go through. So will Keanu Litard. And so will Kuba. Emil Lundell will come out. And Felipe Sousa is going to be ahead of Julian. No. So, Felipe Sousa is going to be behind Julian. And Crisis has got his tyres warmed up and up to temperature as well. So, let's see if he can put a bit of pressure. But it's actually Felipe Sousa who seems like he's trying to put a bit of pressure on Julian. So, we're going to be seeing these guys all pushing on to the back of Zach Miles, who is going to try and get past Will Gibson as soon as possible. Will Gibson has all the tyres, but he still is running right now in the race lead. So this is great stuff for Will Gibson. Let's see where he is going to be able to get himself up to, and where is he gonna finish. But right now on circuit, Zach Miles is about to take the lead of the race, and going straight through and following is Keanu Litard. So Keanu Litard goes to the inside, up goes Zach Miles, up goes Keanu Litard. So Keanu Litard wants to stick with Zach Miles. I mentioned earlier on that possibly Tyres Korsman and Tristan Debecorp do battle. Korsman's ahead in that scrap, but I did mention earlier on, possibly could this be the day that Keanu Litard is able to take that victory. He definitely seems like in a good position right now.
Yeah, he seems to be in a pretty good position because so far only 4 drivers really fighting for the race win. Emil Lundell, though, starting to slowly close into that. The gap at the start-finish straight before was 2.2 seconds. That has now actually shrunk to 1.7, 1.6 even, as it's closed quite a bit. So Emil likely is using quite a bit of ERS. Actually, not all too much, just 62% left. He's starting to close in on the drivers up ahead. That is good news for pretty much everyone behind him. Julian 28, Felipe Sousa, and Kryzix, which is going to extend that fight for the race win all the way down from P1 to P8. So we're going to see some interesting battles unfold all the way around, but it looks like Keanu Lito has really gotten onto the back of Zach Miles and likely will go for that overtake on the backstretch.
Keanu Litard looking very good. Has only stood on the podium once this season, but it was a solid driver last season in F5. Exactly where Zach Miles was. We've already told you many times about Tyres Korsman, of course, as the champion. Felipe Sousa was in that as well. All of these drivers getting promoted, and they're all going to be battling here in the final race of the season. Keanu Litard doesn't even need to use DRS. That's the speed he's got to make the move. Could be a bit more closer further back though, as that's going to be Felipe Sousa getting past Julian. So Felipe Sousa will move through. He'll move up to P6. Up ahead though, Emil Lundell gets past Will Gibson. Felipe Sousa has now got to try and stay with Emil Lundell. They've got the same life of tire wear, so Felipe Sousa has to follow Emil Lundell exactly how Keanu Litard was following Zach Miles, but now it's Zach Miles who's following Keanu Litard.
Yeah, and it looks like Will Gibson's strategy hasn't really paid out. Emil Lundell, who was 1.6 seconds away at the start-finish straight, has managed to get the overtake onto him on the backstretch. And now Felipe hot on his tail, so I would expect Felipe to go with the overtake here on the start-finish straight. Will Gibson will have nothing to defend, and indeed, here comes Felipe. So Will is going to fall back all the way to P8, and will be very tough for him to make any fight with these older set of mediums, as the other drivers still are running on fairly fresh tires. Kuba has actually been overtaken by Emil Lundell in the meantime, who's really flying up the leaderboards. He really wants to put as much distance between him and Felipe as he can, which is good news for the Alpine driver so far, because he's only 2/10 away from Zach Miles. So I think we're going to see some more overtakes, and Emil really has the most pace so far. He is the fastest driver out there on track.
Emil Lundell pushing Zach Miles through the corner, and he's going to be tucked right in the back of the rear wing of the McLaren. He'll pull alongside, and Emil Lundell will move up to second position in the race. He'll get closer also to the back of our race leader Keanu Litard. Julian gets past Will Gibson, and Felipe Sousa has to try now navigate his way past Kuba, and Kuba was allowed through by Emil or it was the other way around, sorry. Emil Lundell was allowed through by Kuba, who is now going to, as Kryzix is also past Will Gibson. Now Emil Lundell, as you would have seen, got past Zach Miles, and now is going to be looking for the race lead very, very shortly. Will the Alpine driver has the youngest tyres, and Felipe Sousa still has a few cars to pass till he gets onto Emil Lundell. We make our way out of the final corner with Keanu Lita defending to the inside. But Emo Lundell will say thank you very much. You'll have the overspeed to go into turn number 1, up the hill to turn number 1 ahead. And we ride on board with Felipe Salza. He's going to be the one who's going to look to now try and pounce and get into the back of Emo Lundell.
Yeah, now the main question is how much overspeed does Emil Lundell have here? Can he keep that lead? Or, oh, look at that, we have a yellow sector. Oh, it's retired in the pit lane. That sounded more interesting than it actually was.
It usually
really thought there was an accident on the road. We might see a safety car, but indeed nothing going on there. Carlos Torres retiring in the pit lane. We had no hopes of getting a point finish here tonight. Felipe Salza, in the meantime, has gotten past Kubitresiak in the hairpin, so he's starting to try and move up the order. We thought that Keanu Lito was actually going to get closer and closer to Emil Lundell's section, but because Emil Lundell has managed to put quite a bit of a gap there, he's not going to be overtaken here on the back stretch. So far, good pace for Emil, who can stay ahead despite not having DRS with the drivers behind him having that. But he will need to break the toe if he wants to try and pull away. Although not too far away from that now, as he's almost 7/10 away from Keanu.
Indeed. So when we do get that in a calm race, when we do get that message, it's all like, oh, are we getting a safety car? No, it is in the pit lane. But yeah, this has been the most calmest race of the season. But sometimes the calmest race of the season could have the best ending. Who knows? But right now, it is Emo Lundell trying to pull away. He's got the gap to 9/10 of a second, so it could be the battle for second that we look to. And Emo Lundell is going to try to get away. 1.2 seconds. And Felipe Salza is really going to have to push. He's really, first of all, going to have to get past Zach Miles and Keanu Litard. Then he's going to have to push a lot, use a lot of ERS, get onto the back, and then try charge it if he wants to have a late attack. But Emo Lundell right now has to try and push on and get as further away as he can as Felipe Salza battles away with traffic. He knows that Emo Lundell's running away with this one, so he's going to have to try and make moves very, very quickly. He's going to have to at least get past Zach Miles into the braking zone of turn 12. On the exit right now, Sasha Neve has been given a penalty and a bit of ERS being used for Felipe Salza. Zach Miles is also going to move up. So Zach Miles is going to be making a move, and Felipe Salza could try get past the pair of them. Felipe Salza past Keanu Lita, past Zach Miles. Incredible stuff by Felipe Salza. Zach Miles and Keanu Lita continue to battle though, and Zach Miles moves up to third. Felipe Salza gets past the pair of them, and that's exactly the move that Felipe Salza needed.
And that was quite the move indeed by Felipe. Holy.
Wow. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Yeah, I think we're having a few Discord lag issues. Mitt, you able to hear me?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I can hear you clearly again. I was just in awe of what was happening with Felipe Salza. He's almost been able to pull a gap of a second to Zach Miles already, which means that Zach is going to be under immense pressure by Keanu Lito behind. But Emil Lundell's managed to get away. The gap now 1.6 seconds to Felipe. Felipe is on 25% of ERS, and Emil Lundell's got 30, so he has a little bit of an advantage in there as well. And it looks like in the pit stop sequence, he's managed to do a little bit better. He used a bit of ERS just before he made his pit stop. Because he managed to get that overtake in the lap that he was going to make the pit stop, he also managed to leapfrog Julian 28, came out ahead of him, where Felipe was behind Julian. And because Emil was able to move up the order so quickly, he's been able to pull a gap onto Felipe. And it's starting to look very, very good for him, and it's definitely possible he's going to pick up his second win of the season. Great run for him so far. Will Gibson, on the other hand, who stopped so much earlier, still in P8, has fallen out of DRS range, 1.4 seconds, as Keanu Lito gets the overtake done onto Zach Miles. But in the meantime, Tias Korsman is also under heavy scrutiny by Tristan Debicor and Sasha Neve. They are within DRS range of him, and I think Tristan is waiting for it here. I think he realizes he's fighting for a P10 here, or for a P9 here, sorry. And Tias really needs to watch out there, although Will Gibson's tires might still give way. And if that does happen, then Tias does still have a chance to get past his teammate for tonight.
He does indeed. We are running out of laps now for Felipe Salza if he wants to try and close the gap. We're on board with our champion of this season, trying to close out F1 23, trying to close out the season on a high. and he's fighting the car through turn 1. He's looking to try get the gap closer and closer. It's 1.4 seconds at the moment. How much can Felipe Sousa dance this car to the edge as he tries to take another victory in this season? He's trying to take today his 5th victory. Let's see if he's going to be able to do it. Who is it going to be? Will it be a back-to-back victory for Emil Lundell, or is it going to be Felipe Sousa who goes to the top step once again for the 5th time this season?
Yeah, Felipe really has gotten so many race wins in here tonight, but the thing that was so outstanding about him this season was his consistency. He has ended up on the podium so many times, perhaps too many times in the eyes of the other drivers. And really the only race where he didn't score points was because he had a technical failure with his pedals. Otherwise, he could have sealed the race or the driver's title even sooner than he already did now. So it's been an outstanding season for him. Definitely going to, well, at least hopefully see him higher up in the tiers next season onwards. But of course, we will have to see what everyone's pace is going to be here in the next game cycle. But definitely one of the drivers who's been performing so great all the way throughout the season. Emil Lundell, indeed, has been a bit of a sleeping giant waking up lately, who has been putting up the pace in the last few laps, really, or the last races, and putting the fight to Felipe. As were the other drivers that we could see take the fight to Felipe. Luke Walso, he's finished 2nd in the standings, not here tonight. So he automatically, of course, won't be able in here with the fight either. We're now in the final 5 laps of the race. Felipe has managed to get a little bit closer to Emil Lundell, so if he can just snoop away a couple of tenths more, we might still have a race win battle on our hands for the final few laps.
In the last sector, it was exactly 1 second. So he absolutely can. He's just got to try and find a good couple of corners. He has absolutely 0 ERS. He's just got to get onto the back with DRS and then basically just charge it then, and Emil Lundell will surely also be trying to use some of his. It's 1.3 seconds. It's changing all throughout as well, but he did get it to 1 second exactly last time out. But yeah, Felipe Sousa has been absolutely phenomenal this season. As you mentioned, that one race in France where he was running in 2nd, was battling for the lead. It was basically exactly what we've seen literally every race this season, where we see 1st and 2nd exchange positions, and then Felipe Sousa roars up and comes up at the end on top. We've seen that quite a bit throughout the season. It was looking like it was going to be one of those, but due to an issue, he wasn't able to get that victory, so the championship could have even been sealed up even sooner, which is absolutely unbelievable with our round removed at Zandvoort as well. We're about to go on to lap number 25. Felipe Sousa doing absolutely everything he can to try and move up to the race lead in the final stages and try challenge for the race lead. He'll really need a good couple of sectors, and the pressure will be on for Emil Lundell trying to navigate every single corner right. One little mistake could bring Felipe Sousa into the 1 second, and then he's going to have to deal with him for the rest of the race.
That indeed is the thing that he will have to worry about, but so far it's looking good for Emil Lundell. Driver that it is perhaps not looking too much, not so good for is Keanu Lito, because he is under a lot of pressure by Zach Miles, and I think Zach Miles is just taking it wisely here. Take some time here. Don't go for the overtake. Save a little bit of DRS, even though you've got 5% less than the driver up ahead, but you will have DRS on the back straight, and that is where you want to be. You want to be in 4th at the back straight in the final lap. Go for the overtake there. Take 3rd. Finish 3rd in this race, and also take P3 in the standing. So very, very important race here tonight for Zach Miles. So far, the strategy seems to be swinging his way, but he will need to finish in P4 because a P4 or a P3, because a P4 won't be good enough to get past Jonas Martins in the standing. So really needs to finish in P3 here tonight, because P3 in the championship is on the line here.
1.4 seconds still for the race lead. It seems like it's just ebbing and flowing, but staying at that point now. It'll need a mistake from Emil Lundell. It'll need some magical corners from Felipe Sousa. But if there is one driver in this field who can do it, it is definitely Felipe Sousa. But he is running out of time. 3 laps to go of the season, and it's going to be the battle for 3rd that we are going to look for versus with Keanu Lito, Zach Miles, and Kuba Tresniak to see who is going to take the final place on the rostrum.
And it looks like the battle for third is already heating up just a little bit more. Zach Miles only 2/10 away from Keanu Lito. A little bit further down the line, Kryzix, the heavy pressure from Julian 28, and Tia still under pressure by Tristan Debicor and Sasha Neeb. So a couple of fights that we should be keeping our eyes on here in these final 3 laps. But look at Felipe. Felipe was 1.5 seconds away at the start-finish straight. That gap now 1.3. But looks like Emil's using a little bit of ERS to counter that because Felipe was getting dangerously close. So even the fight for the race win, still not over yet. As we see Zach Miles pulling outside of the slipstream, doesn't want to go for an overtake, is going to take it slowly, and has now actually gotten the ERS advantage over Keanu Lito. We mentioned 2 laps ago, he was 5% down. He is now 5% up. Good news for him. Kubit Tresiak behind. He does... Well, he does really have the opportunity to still go for an overtake there, but he's got time penalties to his name, so not really a driver they have to be worried about. Actually, Kuba has to worry for Will Gibson, because the gap to Will Gibson is about 6-second mark, and that's exactly the amount of penalties that he has. So he should be looking more to Will so that he can keep that gap. And yeah, Zach Miles looking for Keanu, Julian looking for Kryzix, and Tristan Debicor on the hunt for Tias Kosman.
Still, anything can happen on the last tour. Tyus calls, and we're currently watching this battle, but we are going to look to the battle with third. That's going to be the main battle, unless Felipe Salza can once again provide more of the magic and get inside the 1 second before the last lap. So this battle with third is going to be extraordinary. Remember, one thing we do have to mention, that Kuba does have a penalty in this one. So if he does finish ahead, unless he's able to get it removed, that one will count and will mean that it will be a fight between Keanu Lito and Zach Miles, but Kuba will definitely still get involved if there's an opportunity opens up. Mitt is probably going to be Emil Lundell and Felipe Salza taking 1 and 2, but who do you think is going to take that?
I think for now it's looking quite good for Zach Miles. If he can keep it close, he will be going for the overtake here. But this fight for P3 is going to be his most important overtake of the entire season. Get the overtake done, you finish P3 in the standings. Fail to get the overtake done, you'll be P4 in the standings. It's an overtake that's going to matter oh so much. But it looks like, especially on the back straight, it's so easy for him to catch up with Keanu. So I think if he does it well, uses his ERS just early enough, he should be able to get that overtake sorted. And hopefully Keanu, at least for Keanu himself, realizes that he will be under this amount of pressure. Tias will have to realize the same with Tristan behind, and also Kryzix has to realize the same with Julian. So these are the fights we'll be watching now, but we are entering the final lap. Omi, take us through it.
It's going to be one amazing final lap of the race. Emil Lundell is going to be in first. Felipe Salza is going to be in second. Emil Lundell continues to extend the gap. Sasha Neeb's been given a penalty. But the question is, who is going to finish in third? It's going to be a crucial move for Zach Miles. It's all on the line as Julian gets past Kryzix into turn number 1. Does Kryzix get the up and under and try fight back? That'll be another interesting battle to keep our eye on. But look at Zach Miles dancing the car all over the edge as he tries to get onto the back of Keanu Lito. Kuba has lost a little bit of time, but can Zach Miles make the move for P3 in the race and in the championship? It's going to be an amazing final lap between these two drivers. Let's see. Zach Miles using gears, going for the lunge to the inside. That's close, and Zach Miles has been half spun there. Zach Miles getting half spun. Now it's foot to the floor, and look at that. Kuba's now there as well. DRS open for Kuba. DRS open for Zach Miles. They'll be gaining on Keanu Lito. Down towards the braking zone of turn number 12. Which way is Zach Miles going to go? He's going to go to the outside line. Keanu Lito holds the inside line, but look how brave Zach Miles is on the brakes. He runs off the road there. He now gets the inside. Can Zach Miles make the move for third position in the race and in the championship? He's going to get the inside line. He'll try run out Keanu Lito, who's kept his foot flat to the floor. That is unbelievable stuff by Keanu Lito, who has now blocked Zach Miles. That opens the door for Kuba, who is going to get a penalty unless he gets it removed. So he won't be finishing ahead of these two, but he's still going for it. Lito, it seems like it's going to be getting third position, but at the front of the field, Emil Lundell weaves to victory ahead of Felipe Salza, and an amazing fight between Keanu Lito and Zach Miles. Bit of contact at the end, but it's going to be Keanu Lito who takes third, Zach Miles in fourth, and it won't be third in the championship for Zach Miles due to that moment. It'll be Kuba who will finish behind Kryzix as well due to the penalty, and that was wild stuff at the end.
That was wild stuff at the end indeed. And we saw Tristan Debicor go for the overtake onto Tias in the first sector already. Not possible for Tias to get back on the main straight, losing a little bit of time, and even in the final sector, losing out to Sashani. But with Sasha's penalty, still means that Tias is going to finish in P10 and pick up 1 point of this race here tonight. So that does mean that he drops from 4th to 5th in the final standing. Zach Miles, though, moves at least 1 up, but I think there is going to be a stewards inquiry into the little bit of fight happening between Keanu and Zach Miles. Definitely something to be said about that. I'm curious what the stewards are going to say, because that is going to matter for our final championship results. For the top of the grid, of course, that doesn't matter. Emil Lundell with a smooth victory for him, also fastest lap, as he finishes 2.3 seconds ahead of Felipe Sosa, our championship leader, once again finishing on the podium. Then it's Keanu Little, Zach Miles, Kreisig's in P5 ahead of Kuba after he got that penalty. Then it's Julian 28, Will Gibson in P8 despite that odd strategy. Tristan Debicor in P9, last lap overtake. Tias taking the final few points. And outside the points, we find Nardi Perez, Sasha Neeb, and our 2DNS for tonight, Carlos Torres and Nico Vian.
Absolutely incredible stuff there. And it seems like Keanu Litard did say sorry in the chat, so possibly we could be seeing we possibly could be seeing maybe a little bit more with that one. And I'll of course you can keep updated on that on my socials, which you'll see in about a second, right at the bottom of screen over there. So you guys can go there and of course see on my post season review on everything, my thoughts on the season, and really just going through the championship stuff and standings right at the end. But Mitt, it was an amazing fight to the end, but one of the more calmer races of the season, we have to say.
Yeah, I think one of the more calm races of the season. But then again, it was a bit of expected. We, of course, only had 14 drivers in the grid. A couple of the fast drivers not being there, at least a man second in the championship. With quite a few drivers absent, we did expect not too much was going to happen. Still saw a crash happen there with Nico Viani. Not entirely too sure still what happened there. And nonetheless, a good fight for P3 all the way at the end. But yeah, with no rain coming in as well, no safety car sessions, no really offset strategies that could happen there. So nothing too much interesting that we could see. But then again, it was going to be a really, really tough one to beat after what we've seen in Brazil. And don't forget, round 8, which we had in Azerbaijan, was absolutely crazy. Also, round 5, which we saw in Canada with the rain, one of the crazier races this season. So all the way throughout, we've had some great, great action here in PSGL PCF4. And yeah, with everything that was already decided tonight, the hype was there a little bit less than could have been. But still, we've enjoyed a good race, and that last lap was pretty damn good.
It was definitely good as well. While we didn't have a battle for the lead, it was absolutely phenomenal stuff. But what a season it has been. I'm just checking if there's any drivers coming for interviews right now. We don't have anyone at the moment, but that was absolutely phenomenal. It's just been a phenomenal season. While the last race may have under-delivered slightly due to, of course, attendance levels and stuff, the season's been absolutely incredible. If you look at every race, there's been that talking point. There's always been that thing. And even from this race, you can, of course, have the talking point of Emil Lundell making it back-to-back victories. Also, of course, the battle for third in the standings with Zach Miles trying it right at the end, trying to get the move done, and a bit of contact, and the move at turn number 11, that's definitely going to be investigated, ruining Zach Miles' exit, giving Kuba the run, and Kuba, without the penalty, also really did really also could have got even more involved and got a bit more energy to try and fight that one, but he did still try and fight that one indeed. But in the live chat, if you guys are still watching us, please do let us know your thoughts on the season. But it's just been absolutely incredible. But the main talking point, the main man, the driver that the season's really has dominated is Felipe Salza. He's absolutely dominated this season. He's been absolutely phenomenal. And there has been races where he has been beaten, but by PSGL standards, where we usually see it being very close. It was close in the races, but there was always one man at the top. Bit of Discord issues.
And doing some calculations, we have Jonas Wachtens finishing P3 in the standings, despite not attending the final 5 races. That's ridiculous. He finishes on 50 points, but behind him, Tias Korsman was on 43. He's going to get 1 point. Will finish on 44. Zach Miles on 41 before this race gets 8 points, is on 49. Kuba Trzeziak finished behind, 2 places behind Zach Miles, so he picks up 5 points. That moves him up from 39 to 44, which is the same amount of points as Tias. But Tias has a race win, so Tias finishes ahead of Kuba. Keanu Lito, he finished in P3, 10 points to his name, 46 points, is going to get past Tias Korsman. Emil Lundell, who was on 33 points, a second race win for him, 16 points, will be 49 points in total, means that Emil Lundell is going to be 4th in the standings, being 1 ahead of Zach Miles and 1 behind Jona Martin. So the fight for P3, at least the final standings for P3, I think P3 all the way to P8 is maybe like, wait, that's insane.
That is insane indeed. But, as we already mentioned, it has been insane all throughout. But it's Felipe Sousa who has dominated these standings. And we have him currently in the commentary box with us. Mitt, take it away.
All right. So, our championship winner was already decided quite early on. And once again, a podium result for you today. 2 times in 3rd, 2 times in 2nd. 4 race victories, a 4th place in Austria. And the only race you finished outside of points was because of technical malfunction. Phil have been extremely consistent this season.
Good evening, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I joined the championship knowing that would be really difficult, but I was practicing a lot. You can't even imagine how much I was practicing because last season in F5 I wasn't really using 2 setups as we used to say because we have park for me off, etc. The lobby. So yeah, I wasn't really fast in qualifying, so that didn't even put me in the top 5, top 10 maybe. So I was getting penalties and then people were crashing into me. But yeah, this season was much more consistent. Only race I didn't actually finish in the points was France because my pedal simply disconnected. And also Austria, I entered the lap leading, and then I got pushed off at turn 3. But yeah, it happens, and yeah, pretty consistent championship.
Yeah, I think it's been one of the most consistent championship runs that I've seen. You're going to finish so far ahead because with tonight, you're going to get 12 points. You will end on 118 points. That will be 46 points ahead of the man in P2. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it is. I wasn't really expecting, because at the beginning of the championship, we were fighting a lot with Jona. But yeah, obviously he had the esports to do, so yeah, he couldn't really race the last few races. But yeah, I think I had really good fights with a lot of guys in the beginning with Jona, and then in the middle of the season with Luke, and then now in the end with Emil, these last 2 races or 3 races. So yeah, we were really fast, and yeah, hopefully I'm gonna go to F3 maybe. I don't know if even further.
Yeah, but the next game, we're going to go to the next game, F124. Have you been able to test the game at all so far?
Yes, I got the beta, and yeah, it's I can't really say much, but I think everyone knows what's happening. I hope they improve the game. Yeah, they really know the issues, so yeah, they really need to improve the game, because otherwise everyone's gonna complain about it, and yeah, it's not gonna be enjoyable.
All right. And yeah, for the next season 37, of course, we'll still have to see when that season is going to commence and also which tracks we're going to see. But if you could name 3 tracks that you definitely want to see on the calendar, which 3 would you like to see?
Well, my home race, for sure. I think maybe Belgium, because it's one of my best tracks. And also Monaco. I mean, I think there won't be Monaco because it was this season, but yeah, I really love Monaco, so would be really great. I also like Monza. Was my first win in PSGL in F5 2 seasons ago. So yeah, that's where everything started up until now.
All right. Well, let's hope we can see some of those tracks in need. We had 3 of those this season. So we had Belgium round 2, Monaco round 3, both of the races that you won, and then your home race, Interlagos, last week out where you finished P3 with the fastest lap. Yeah, Monza we didn't see this time out, but I would not be surprised if we're going to see it next time round, also likely with the return of Silverstone being one of the classic races. Definitely some of the tracks to look forward to. For now, though, because we've come to the end of F1 23 and also the end of the season, any words from our champion?
Well, I'd like to thank everyone who was following me, because I think you saw in the lot of Brazilians cheering for me, and also on my streams there were like 300, 400, maybe 500 in Monaco, I think, which was the peak, So yeah, I really want to thank them. It couldn't be possible without them, without their support, etc. So yeah, really happy with the championship, and yeah, hopefully I can win another two and then get into F1 maybe.
All right, thank you very much for that. Omi, any final words for you or from you to our championship winner?
Nope, not at all. But Felipe, absolutely extraordinary stuff throughout the season. It really has been good. Of course, as I commentated on you last season, really has been good to be able to see you take a step forward this season, and you've been absolutely phenomenal. Also, big thank you for all of the interviews. You've been doing a lot for us here on the streams, haven't you?
Yeah. Thank you, Ami. Yeah, I think it was just such a sensational championship. To be honest, wasn't expecting, as I said, but yeah, as soon as I got really consistent in qualifying, especially because it was my weakness last season. I think it got really better because I wasn't involved in any crashes, etc. So yeah, thank you so much. So
it's been an absolutely extraordinary season that has belonged to that man. But mate, what a season. What's been your favorite moments from it?
I think we'll have to go back to some of the races. I mean, we already had a great season opener in Australia where we had the three-man fight for the race win, the race that Jona won. We had a great race in Belgium where we saw a reserve driver just go to second and finish second out of nowhere. We had some crazy race in Monaco, and Austria with some good fights for the final few laps. The crazy rain in Canada. Then in France, a little bit less eventful. Portugal also proving to be interesting, happening towards the end. And Azerbaijan, the best race of the season last week out in Brazil with two safety cars. Lot of crazy, a little bit of rain in the end. And tonight, where we also had a very interesting qualifying with a fairly clean race at the end. So it's been a stellar season, one of the better seasons all the way throughout. I think the only thing that we perhaps were missing was a little bit of a championship fight down to the wire, because there was one driver really standing out above all else, and that was Felipe. So that would perhaps be the only thing that would make the championship and the racing a little bit more exciting. But all the way throughout, I think we've seen a really, really good season.
We have indeed. It's been phenomenal, especially the race last time out in Brazil. That was just absolutely brilliant. But going outside a bit of this season, as well, as this is our final stream on F1 23, most likely, unless there is some other events that do take place. But we'll probably be back if we do social races for the new game, or if not, then of course for the tiers when the season gets underway. But as a whole, of course, you joined during F1 23. How is it overall? What have you enjoyed on F1 23 doing PSGL?
Well, what have we enjoyed? I mean, it's always been great when a bit of rain came out. The qualifyings were extremely close here. And I think towards the end, we saw one of the drivers that were really going to make a step up. That is Emil Lundell, and he will be one of the drivers to watch for future seasons as well. So I'm going to be very what he is going to do in the next couple seasons.
And of course, going into F1 24, we're going to have everyone doing the time trials and all of that again, all of the Grand Prix modes, and submitting all of that again, of course, due to the new game. So the pace may be a bit different, with possibly a little bit of an adjusted handling as well. So it could all change around again. So we could even be seeing some drivers who may have not had the best season on this grid could be ending up in F2. Who knows? It can all change very quickly. So it'll be very exciting to see what the jump up is from this game all the way to the next game, with possibly a little bit of a different handling.
Yeah, so we'll really have to see how that's going to pan out, and also how the slipstreaming is going to be, because we see in the real world, in the real season 24, that staying behind each other, close at least, is going to be much, much more difficult, and has been much more difficult. So hopefully we won't see that reflection in the race. It would, of course, make it more realistic, but for the sake of interesting races, that is definitely going to cut that down. So hopefully we're going to see some more close fights all the way throughout, and that the engine models and the tire models, everything, the handling grip is going to improve to such a state that the drivers are going to be happy with it.
Yep, and the only thing us commentators are biased about is making it as close as possible and having as much of action as well. But Mitt, it's been an absolute pleasure working alongside you. What's your final words from season 36?
Well, I hope everyone in the chat has been able to enjoy it. Hans has been able to enjoy it as much as we've been able to, and I can't wait to be back in the future seasons. We'll take a good break now. I hope you guys will all take a good break, and hopefully in a few months we can be back on F1 24.
Absolutely as well. Big thank you to all of the stewards. Big thank you, of course, to Jess and Josh as well. They've done some brilliant work with all of the production. Sappy also gets a big shout out for that. They've all done some fantastic work to make the coverage how it is and give us all of these tools to provide you with all of these exciting races. So big thank you to all of them, of course, and of course giving us the opportunity to be able to also be the voice over these amazing races. Big thank you though to all of the social media team promoting our races week in, week out. So it's been absolutely phenomenal. Big thank you to all of them as well, and of course everyone behind the scene who has made the season possible. And the biggest shout out of course goes to our sponsors, our amazing sponsors, of course, the GT Omega chair right next to me. Big thank you to them. Apologies that we weren't able to get their advert in, but it was probably a good thing that we didn't, or we would have missed the race start today. But big thank you also to SLC who've also joined us right at the back end of last season. It's been amazing having them on board with us, and then big thanks of course to Big C and Krypton as well for all of their amazing work and keeping the league on track. Now, however, we've given a lot of thank yous, but we need to also thank you for choosing us, choosing F4 and PSGL to watch here on Thursday nights. It's been amazing having your company, and we cannot wait to do it all over again. 3 seasons on a new game with a lot of news coming out. So make sure you keep up to date with that, and we should be back in just over a month's time for some amazing racing. Big thank you to all of you for watching. Make sure you do get involved on Twitter and Discord, and if you do want to race as well in PSGL, then make sure you do, of course, sign up and get in the Discord server to get all ready for that. Big thank you though to everyone, and Mitt, it's been absolutely a pleasure being alongside you, and hopefully we get to do it again sometime. But however, from now it is going to be goodbye, and we will see you on F1 24.
He's got the inside off here, he's through on the left hand side. Hugs the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the GOAT is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand Prix.